Theme parks are magical places where you can spend hours waiting in line just to soar through the air in rickety rides operated by teenagers. While they're full of fun and excitement when open, these parks take on an eerie atmosphere when abandoned, left to decay, haunted by neglect, and even marked by tragedy. Here are the creepiest theme parks you'd never want to visit. Spree Park, Berlin. Also known as Kulturpark Planterwald, Berlin, this park was found in East Berlin. Now, both the park and country exist in the past tense since Germany was reunified in the 1990s. Despite its popularity during East Germany's Soviet occupation, attendance fell as the century waned, and Spree Park closed in 2002 due to a lack of visitors. The story didn't end there, though, as the park's owner took some of the rides with them in giant shipping containers when he moved to Peru in a failed attempt to establish a new park. On his return in 2004, he was found to be using the rides to smuggle 180 kilograms of Peruvian cocaine into Germany, and both the owner and his son were arrested. In the years that followed, the park was ravaged by decay and even arson, leaving nothing more than a sad, eerie place for anyone unlucky enough to visit. Dinosaur Land, England. If Jurassic Park is anything to go by, dinosaurs can be pretty terrifying. But they are even scarier when they're cracked, filthy, and covered in mold. When Dinosaur Land, a prehistoric themed park in Tamworth, England, shut down over a decade ago, its eerie inhabitants were left inside. The park that once invited guests to explore the wonders of a lost age has now itself been lost to the ages. There are dusty dinosaurs lurking around every corner, as well as uncanny cavemen that are now covered in cobwebs. Six Flags New Orleans. New Orleans' version of the famous chain began life in 2000 under the name Jazzland, aiming to be centered around New Orleans heritage. Jazzland was bought out by Six Flags in 2002 and was popular with locals and visitors alike. That is until total disaster struck in the form of Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The park was under 7 feet of brackish water for over a month, which damaged its rides and infrastructure beyond repair. Many of its rides have now been removed, but the park retains a mixture of gloominess and a certain excitement due to the fact that alligators now live among the remnants of its water rides. The park does see some human footfall, though. It's been used in the filming of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Jurassic World, and other movies, and is popular among the many brave urban explorers of YouTube. Dogpatch, Arkansas. This Deep South themed park was designed to look like an old, tiny hillbilly town and ran from the late 60s until the early 90s. Based on a fictional town from the comic strip Lil Abner by cartoonist Al Cap, the park featured everything from a fishing pond to caverns and even horseback riding. There were even characters with folksy names like Hairless Joe who would walk around the park and interact with visitors. In 2002, the park went up for sale on eBay for $1 million, but received no bids. With the rundown shacks, collapsed sculptures, putrid ponds, and pervasive coating of rust, it's hardly surprising. Lincoln Park, Massachusetts. This northeastern ghost park was a popular destination for over 6 decades after its inception in the 1920s. Even the Kennedys reportedly frequented the park. But then, in 1986, a fatal accident on the Comet, a wooden roller coaster, initiated the park's unraveling. People grew skeptical of the park's safety standards with further near misses and balding, dilapidated equipment, and coaster brake failures. Visitor numbers fell steeply, and Lincoln Park finally closed in 1987. Now, all that remains is a series of decaying wooden structures, many of which have since collapsed, painting an eerie, jagged picture of a place that once held joyful memories for so many people, a place that is now haunted by the memories of the child whose death kick-started the park's downfall. Creepiest Amusement Park. Unlike other parks around the world that thrived before abandonment, the Creepiest Amusement Park was never opened. The grand opening had been planned for May 1, 1986, with the intention of being a park of culture and rest for the inhabitants of Soviet-occupied Ukraine. But on April 26, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster struck mere miles away, and the park was left to rust in the middle of the now ghost town. Heading to the park today, you can see the decorations for the planned opening that never happened alongside hopeful murals painted on the walls. Visitors today leave stuffed animals by the Ferris wheel, bumper cars, and swing boats as memorials to those who died in the Chernobyl disaster. The sad contrast between the innocent pastel-painted rides, the all-pervasive rust, and the knowledge of what caused its abandonment makes this one of the most harrowing places on Earth. It's one of the most dangerous too, since non-concrete areas of the park still hold hazardous levels of radiation. Duna Verosi Vidom Park. Yet another famous abandoned Soviet theme park. Vidom Park opened in Hungary in 1952. True to the spirit of communism, it was totally free for visitors. It got all its funding from the Soviet government and enjoyed a decent run of 40 years. But when the USSR collapsed, the park shut down. Nowadays, smiling Hungarian children have been replaced with broken rides, spooky Soviet-era art/propaganda, and a huge spider-like structure overhanging the park. If you listen very hard, you can hear Lenin cursing his failed successors on the wind. Dodi Park, Belgium. Located near the French border in Belgium, Dodi Park was a kid-friendly park opened in 1950. After years of steady popularity and expansion, darkness began to seep through the cracks and the brightly colored walls. Though Dodi Park initially survived a series of minor accidents involving poorly maintained rides, attendance took a nosedive in 2000 after a 9-year-old got his arm chopped off in the popular Nautic jet ride. It closed for renovations soon after, but never reopened. Nowadays, nature is slowly reclaiming the area, giving a glimpse into how the world might look if an apocalypse wipes out a civilization. In a word, rusty. Gulliver's Kingdom, Japan. At the base of Mount Fuji lies a giant tied to the ground. He's covered in graffiti now, but he was once a gigantic model representing the titular character from Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. The Japanese government funded many construction projects in the 90s to try and boost the economy, but an amusement park based around such a specific theme may not have been the wisest choice of investment. Indeed, Gulliver's Kingdom failed to attract enough visitors and closed merely 4 years after its opening in 1997. This was also likely a location issue. After all, I can't imagine parents were too eager to take their kids somewhere so close to Japan's notorious suicide forest, Okigahara, being located a few miles away from the most popular suicide destination in the world. Besides, the Golden Gate Bridge doesn't exactly scream family fun. The surrounding area also once housed the headquarters of Ancient Rikshio, a religious cult who murdered 13 people in 1995. The sinister history of the area, coupled with the obscure, mostly demolished remnants of the park, makes it one seriously spooky destination. Disney's Lost Worlds. In the middle of a lake in Disney World, Florida, lies Discovery Island, a once popular zoological park now only accessible to the stealthiest of urban explorers. It's totally off-limits, and Disney asserts that anyone caught on the island will be banned from all Disney properties for life. Discovery Island closed in 1999 and now resembles little more than a series of dilapidated enclosures and walkways from the shore. But those brave enough to venture across have found grown enclosures and buildings, freezers full of rotting substances, and weirdest of all, jars and bottles containing real preserved snakes. If that wasn't enough, just across the same lake housing Discovery Island lies River Country, Disney's own abandoned water park. What was once a popular splashdown destination now resembles an advert for a monster flick, or at the very least, tepiditous. After 25 years in business, River Country closed in 2001, unable to compete with Disney World's larger, newer water parks. It now sits alone, a silent, stagnant pool surrounded by filthy slides and moldy walls, perfect for a dip if Discovery Island doesn't scare you enough. Holy Land, USA. Today, there's very little holiness in Holy Land. Built in Connecticut in 1955, the park features a replica of the Garden of Eden, tributes to the life of Christ, and other biblical dioramas. It was best known for its giant Hollywood-style sign and enormous floodlit cross. Once a wholesome destination, the park is now one of the spookiest. It's been trashed in its years since its closure in 1984 and is full of decapitated statues and defiled iconography. If that isn't enough to keep you away, a woman was brutally murdered there in 2010. If you ever head to Holy Land, best take an exorcist. Kaijonu Leisure Land, Japan. This abandoned theme park in Tohoku, Japan, has more than just standard rusty rides and collapsed buildings under its belt. It closed in 2002 due to failing popularity, attributed to Japan's low birth rate and unstable economy. But what gives the park an unnerving edge is its ghostly location. The park was built next to the folkloric pond of the Ghost Woman. The pond's ancient myth involves a woman going insane and drowning herself in the pond after giving birth to a screaming snake-human hybrid. Rumor has it that at night, the screams of the wretched creature and its lunatic mother can still be heard. Even as a skeptic, that certainly keeps me looking over my shoulder. Nara Dreamland, Japan. Nara Dreamland opened in 1961, aiming to be Japan's answer to Disneyland. Once the Legit Tokyo Disneyland opened in 1983, it leached customers from Dreamland, gradually leading to its closure in 2006. Now, Dreamland's knockoff Disney aesthetic only contributes to the creepiness. The castle soon gained the attention of vandals, giving its innocent pink walls a filthy post-apocalyptic feel. Cute, merry characters were defiled and left in disturbing poses, while the park's many attractions soon became encased in dust and vines. Dreamland was demolished in 2017, but footage from YouTube Explorers keeps its sinister memory alive. Cidade Albanoa, Brazil. This place was intended to be the Santa-themed section of a much larger park in Brazil. Only the rest of the park was never constructed, and Cidade Albanoa itself never even opened. Now it's nothing but an incredibly strange Christmas ghost town. The creator, Brazilian politician Antonio Albano Reis, was killed in a car accident only a few meters from the park. His death, alongside allegations of on-site animal neglect, permanently stalled development, leaving behind what resembles a real Christmas special of Twin Peaks. Alongside various representations of Santa and his helpers, you can also find abandoned strollers and, for some reason, a terrifying Humpty Dumpty. Even in the heat of summertime, this place promises guaranteed chills. Western Village, Japan. In Nikko, Japan, about 70 miles north of Tokyo, there's an eerie remnant of the past known as Western Village. This Wild West-themed park has been abandoned since 2007, now inhabited only by defunct animatronic cowboys and a replica of Mount Rushmore. While some interiors remain surprisingly intact, the animatronics seem almost poised to move when your back is turned, frozen in scenes of daily life from the Wild West. The Creepiest display features a man having his tooth pulled, made even more unsettling by the vines that have overtaken the figures, resembling something out of a twisted garden. But perhaps the strangest sight of all is a bizarre sculpture of a woman fused with a bubbling wall of flesh. Definitely not something you'd expect in the real Wild West. Whether this video has sparked your curiosity to explore abandoned amusement parks or made you wish they were wiped off the map, let me know your thoughts and which ones you dare to visit in the comments below. Thanks for watching.